So, we all know that becoming a Beyonder comes with many great boons and many great side effects as well. But something that less of us probably knew, or more than likely forgot, is the fact that when you advance enough as a Beyonder, you kind of inadvertently turn into a walking, talking pregnancy test. Now, this is because when you're a Beyonder and you make a kid, at the moment of conception, you will feel a slight decrease in your Beyonder characteristics as a portion of it is transferred to your soon to be born child. For this reason, you wouldn't really need a pregnancy test, as this feeling of a decrease in your characteristic would basically suffice as a positive result in a pregnancy test. I believe the first instance in which we learned of this phenomenon was through Emperor Roselle, through his diary, which recounted his experience of going through what I just previously mentioned, basically nutting and feeling his characteristic go down in quantity. An example of someone who inherited Beyonder characteristics is Ademisaul, who, if you don't remember who this person is, he's the poor monster kid in the underground market in Tingen. Due to their Beyonder parent most likely not being of a very high sequence, Ademisaul only received enough characteristics to be half of the monster pathway, hence not really getting all of the benefits of being a Beyonder, while seemingly receiving all of the suffering that comes with it. To go further into detail of how acquiring Beyonder characteristics works, Sequence 7 Beyonders and anyone lower will pass down their characteristics without really having any control. According to the Archbishop in Roselle's diary, beyond just the initial child who receives the Beyonder characteristics, it would be very unlikely for that child to pass down any characteristics themselves due to the small amount they themselves have, although it isn't entirely impossible either. In terms of what having these characteristics passed down to you would do, if you're in a situation like Ademisaul and you're only half of a certain sequence, it doesn't really seem to do you much good, aside from maybe giving you a little head start in being a Beyonder, as in giving you the occasional visions and or whatever abilities may be granted to you via your pathway. Now, if you're a Beyonder parent, then passing down your characteristics may be very beneficial for you, like in Emperor Roselle's case, in which he passed down his characteristics in order to have an easier time digesting whatever small amount was left, so that he could basically rank up and progress in his pathway. As with all things, moderation is key, as if you make too many kids, you might subsequently regress in your pathway as you pass down way too much characteristics and sent yourself back. Although initially starting at sequence 7 and lower as in numbers going down, not going back up, in case there was a slight confusion, starting at sequence 7 and lower until you get into the higher sequences, the process of passing down Beyonder characteristics is really beyond your control. But once you get to a certain sequence that's high enough, you can start controlling how much of your characteristics that you pass down to your kids, which, as mentioned prior, Roselle took full advantage of in order to get rid of a sizable chunk that was basically enough to make one of his sons a sequence 5 right out of the womb. But since you are able to control how much of your characteristics you pass down to your kids, you can also basically decide not to pass down any in general, whether because you don't want to have your kids muddled up in the world of Beyonders, or because you want them to have a freedom of choice when it comes to what pathway they want to follow. Now, when I first found out that Beyonder characteristics could be inherited, the first line of question that I had was, how is it decided which parent passes down their Beyonder characteristics if both of the parents are Beyonders? Although the answer isn't outright stated in the novel or in the wiki, I think the most logical answer is that at first, at least when the parents are of a low sequence, the parents whose characteristic is passed down is chosen at random. but once the parents are of a high enough sequence, then they're probably able to choose amongst themselves between who is going to pass down their characteristics, since if they're able to decide how much of their characteristic they pass down, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to also choose who passes it down in the first place. And that should basically cover the process of inheriting beyonder characteristics and how it works, or at least the extent of my knowledge on this subject. I'm sure if I miss out on something, Bibleman will come in for the assist in the comments and pick up on the slack. If you found this video to be insightful or helpful in any way, I don't really care about subs or likes, as these are just numbers, and I'd rather see your thoughts on the video if you thought it was helpful or not, and that would be much more appreciated on my end of things. Other than that, thank you for watching all the way through to the end, and I hope that you guys have a very good rest of your day.